Hello, all. This is Diego. I met last Friday with Cheryl, Michelle, and Austin, and I have a few questions about the tasks. So this is the list of tasks that Cheryl sent. And my first question is here with the export to WinDisp. We have here in the GeoCLIM export to WinDisp function. I wanted to ask if it's necessary for the programmer team to implement this function. I used WinDisp a long time ago, and in my workshops I've never found, in the last many years, I never found a person that uses WinDisp. Another issue that Cheryl brought up was importing regions. So since the QGIS version of the GeoCLIM is not going to have this kind of menus like the old one, so she's going to add a button right here that is going to import regions. So it's going to populate all the fields with the information from the region that is being imported. Another issue is the question that Cheryl sent and Tamuka responded: the difference between the geographic area and the region. And we use this when the GeoCLIM is installed, and then as soon as we open it for the first time, it asks to select a geographic area and select a region. But that's the only time that I see that it being used. So I have questions about this. When we create a new region in, for example, I have a region here for Colombia that is in South America. So this region does not have any geographic area. But then if we have if we go to the GeoCLIM regions right here, we have all the regions here, and independently, and Tamuka will clarify this better, but what I understand is that we have all the regions here independently what geographic area or how many geographic areas we have. So I think it should let us create a new geographic area so that we relate new regions to that geographic area, or we could take this out completely, this geographic area concept, because I feel like having this list in here is sufficient, because the list is in alphabetical order. And for example, for people that work in a specific area, people that work in Central America, they don't need anything to do with Africa, so they could delete the rest of the regions and just leave the regions that they need. So I think the concept of the geographic area, first of all, is used only once, and it doesn't get updated every time we create a new region for a different geographic area. One more thing, in this rainfall climatological analysis, I know I mentioned this before, but I think this function is underused. This frequency of function is so interesting, and I feel like we cannot use it because the way the results are. So for example, here I am asking for the frequency of rainfall between 200 and 500 in the last 9 years since 2010. So this thing, this is the result. So this is telling us how many times is this value has happened in those years. But this given in events per decade. I know Tamukar already explained the different frequencies that we could provide, but I think if we provide this in just the number of events, it would be very straightforward and very useful. And how many times this amount of rainfall happened in this number of years. So that would be very useful to have just the straightforward number of or another button that would tell us, yeah, the number of events per decade, but then the number of events, just the straightforward value. That would be very useful. Now the other one is the convert NextCDF to bills and export bills to NextCDF. And I think we need to, as I mentioned before, we need to be able to read geotips. That would save a lot of time, and it allows us to read other data sets easier, because sometimes like Gabriel's data set is in geotips, but to transfer into BILs is a pain. So I haven't had the time to do it. Then I haven't been able to read it in the GeoCLIM. But I think being able to read geotips would be very useful. So these functions here convert NextCDS to bills. It's probably better to convert to tips and export tips to NetCDF. Then these tasks will depend on defining if we're gonna read geotips. So one of the comments in the meeting was, okay, so do we leave the geotips reading to the end? But I think it would be something to discuss at the beginning, because some of these tasks depend if it's going to be a GeoTIFF or a bill. Then that's what we talked about with the programming team.